And good afternoon. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Delvecchio here, specializing in home care, downsizing in the senior living industry. Thank you for tuning in. Coming up on the first half of the show, the growing trend of compassionate communities, improving the quality of life for people with a life-limiting illness and their families. And on the second half of the show, as you are probably aware, International Women's Day was this past Friday. Well, I thought what better way to celebrate the day with engineering pioneer and philanthropist Gina Cody, just an incredible woman for whom the Gina Cody School of Engineering at Concordia University was named after. So, are you getting adjusted to the change in clocks as we spring forward? I know it was a little darker for my walk with Zola, or Great Dane, this morning. However, I don't know if you checked out the sunset. Because it's a cloudy day, we probably won't realize it. But sunset today is 6:55 p.m. Wow. So it is certainly out there, and we'll see it this week as the sun comes out. These later nights, I think we've all been waiting for, and spring is around the corner. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday. Any plans for the weekend celebrating St. Patrick's Day? Well, on this Thursday, in fact, I'm going to be at Cunningham's Pub in St. Anne de Bellevue for a charity lunch and fundraiser for Nova West Island. There's just a few tickets left, and it's for a great cause. There's actually going to be two seatings there, 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. That's for Nova West Island at Cunningham's Pub. Ken Doran, my buddy, is going to be the man behind that fundraiser. In fact, Ken is going to be one of my guests on next Sunday's show for St. Patrick's Day. And coincidentally, he's also the man behind another fundraiser for the Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence, which is taking place at McGibbon's Irish Pub on Wednesday, March 15th. It's a breakfast fundraiser taking place from 7 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Now, speaking of the Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence, they are one of the leading organizations in the country promoting compassionate communities. I have in studio with me Cynthia Lapointe to tell us more. Cynthia is the Community Development Project Manager at the Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence. Cynthia, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thanks for having me here.
Well, thank you for coming into studio here on a Sunday. So for our listeners, can you explain, Cynthia, what is a compassionate community?
Well, a compassionate community is really exactly how it sounds. It's people caring for people within their community who are in need. But a more descriptive summary is that a compassionate community is a community of people who are committed to improving the experiences of those who are isolated and those who are living with a serious illness or caregiving, dying, or grieving. A compassionate community really takes an active role in caring for people affected by these experiences. It connects people to the supports they need, and it raises awareness about end-of-life issues, and it builds supportive networks around them.
Yeah, I just love this. It makes a lot of sense, you know. It's because it's much more about just the individual, perhaps, that has the illness. It's really all-encompassing with family and caregivers. So I'd love to know how the idea even started.
Well, actually, it's funny you ask. The idea's been around for a long time. A gentleman from Australia back in 1990 derived the concept of compassionate communities from the World Health Organization of Healthy Cities. And in fact, now there's a worldwide movement toward rebuilding social capital within communities. And this is often referred to as the compassionate community movement. This approach has actually been adopted by major palliative care and other organizations across Canada and internationally. And if you go online, you can find a lot of information about the movement all over the world.
One of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, because it's a wonderful concept. It's gaining traction, and we need to get the word out. So I'd like to know about the involvement with the Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence as part of the compassionate community. What's the connection there?
Well, back in 2018, the Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence began a 5-year research and demonstration project in collaboration with our own University of Montreal and other universities to understand the compassionate community initiatives and to develop sustainable programs in the West Island and Centre-Sud regions of Montreal. Of course, this was in collaboration with other community partners. We strongly believed that we could help to further this social movement while finding ways to take care of our community. And actually, the compassionate community philosophy really fits within our vision because we're very committed to supporting and helping our community and its citizens. And we want them to be as well as possible for as long as possible in their homes.
It makes sense. How you are so committed to the community, and of course your leader and visionary Teresa Dellar, and Teresa was actually a guest and sitting where you exactly were, Cynthia, back in 2017 before her passing, and a couple years later at 58 years old, and such a wonderful person, and her legacy lives on. You've got Dale Whale, the executive director, and your entire team doing a phenomenal job for the community, and this is what compassionate communities are all about. And so can you give us an idea of what a compassionate community does?
Well, the objective really of a compassionate community is to improve the quality of life and the well-being of patients and their loved ones living with a serious illness, right from the time of diagnosis and through the illness trajectory to bereavement support. And I kind of want to really emphasize this because this kind of support does not start in the last few months or weeks of life. Mm-hmm. As often people believe. It starts at the time of diagnosis of a chronic or life-threatening illness. But that being said, at the Teresa Dellar Résidence, compassionate community initiatives, they really work within two frameworks. And the first one focuses on education and knowledge exchange. And in collaboration with other local community organizations and municipalities, the public can get a clearer understanding of what palliative care really is and demystify those preconceived notions and ideas that a lot of people have and reduce the fear that these words associated with end of life make people feel. We know that dying is a natural part of living, but palliative care is really about adding life to each day by making the most of each day for as long as possible and with the utmost person-centered care possible. The second framework of the compassionate community initiatives is recognizing the community as an important source of support. So we use a hands-on approach and we focus on mobilizing volunteers and engaging partner organizations to join us and leading programs that offer personal contact and accompaniment to those in need to enhance their well-being in the community. Now, I want to say that developing these programs requires collaboration with other services, and I can't emphasize that enough. We really rely on many of our partners and resources to make this happen, such as the West Island CIUS and the West Island CLSCs, as well as other local organizations, such as the Centre des Ressources Communautaires de l'Ouest de l'Île, known as the CRC, Golden Home Care, Abovaz, Nova West Island, Ville de Pointe-Claire, Senior Aid, Ville de Kirkland, and Beaconsfield. Even the local SPVM police stations and many more are crucial in helping us to provide these programs.
So much there. Glad you got some shout outs to a lot of the organizations and the resources there. You're listening to Life Unrehearsed. By the way, Matt Delvecchio, and I'm talking about compassionate communities with Cynthia Lapointe. She's the Community Development Project Manager at the Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence. We have to head out to traffic. Cynthia, I just want to point out, because one of the things you mentioned, and we've discussed off air, only about, 10% of services are with the healthcare system and professionals, whereas 90%, we got to rely on other resources.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. And, with social isolation, it can be detrimental to our health. And people know that after the pandemic, but really, people may not be aware how much it has a profound impact on health and even mortality. And when we look at support resources in our healthcare system, only 10% come from those resources, and it's 90% of the other resources come from informal care, what we call informal care, which is community agencies, friends and neighbors, families, caregivers, spouses, volunteers. So it's really not possible for the healthcare system to offer all of those resources to people, and it's really not realistic. Mm-hmm. So when we think about it, when we're not feeling well, it's great to have a nurse come and visit us at our home, but we need more than that. We need more than a nurse or a doctor. We need family, friends, colleagues, spiritual advisors, whoever you would turn to, need to be there in order to you to have a better care. It's not enough to only receive medical care. It's imperative that we look at informal care for help.
Yeah.
And that's why compassionate communities are so important.
That's what the name is all about, and it's so important. It's an amazing stat, 10%, whereas 90% is informal. All right, we have to head out to traffic, Cynthia. When we come back, we're going to give some real examples, real-life stories of some of these projects in use. So exciting. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence. And welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Del Vecchio here, and talking about compassionate communities. And yes, indeed, people help the people. And I'm here with Cynthia Lapointe, Community Development Project Manager at the Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence, talking about a worldwide, trend about compassionate communities and how we can all help out. And so, Cynthia, I'd love to hear a little bit more about some of the programs and projects that are offered, because I believe you break it down into two, right? There's education and accompaniment. So can you give us an example of some of the education that you're doing?
Sure. Yeah. Some of our education and knowledge exchange programs and presentations include the myths of palliative care, in which we, through education presentations, we hope to dispel the myths of palliative care by reviewing myths that are commonly believed and clarifying what palliative care really is and what it means. We also have advanced care planning, very important, a process of reflecting and communicating your wishes for end-of-life care with your family. We go through the steps of advanced care planning and help people to bring up those discussions and how to share with their loved ones their wishes.
You know, I'm happy you brought up the advanced care planning. We talk about this quite a bit in Life Unrehearsed, and because it is so important. And I'm glad you mentioned we think of palliative care. It truly is a myth. You know, it's oh my goodness, it's the last few weeks of life, and in fact, advanced care planning could be years and years in advance. That's a perfect example how palliative care truly incorporates, not just the latter parts of life. You're helping families and the loved ones. And so along the educational lines, I think you've got something called the Family Caregiver Series. What's that about?
We do, and that one's very good for anyone who's a caregiver. This is a free virtual series you can join. It's led by our clinical experts from the residence, and our topics cover advanced care planning, caring for self when caring for others, symptom management, helping children cope. And we're actually adding a new one this year called Navigating the Healthcare System. So very good virtual free series to join.
And that navigating the healthcare system, it's changing so often. That presentation must have to get changed very often as well, because it isn't easy to navigate our healthcare system. And here you are providing resources over and above the healthcare system. One other education piece you talk about, and I love this, is compassionate workplaces.
Compassionate workplaces is one of my favorite compassionate community outreach initiatives, and it's really it's looking at businesses and looking at a business that's really trying to educate them about compassionate communities and help them to be compassionate workplaces. And what that means is we go in, and through our pilot project, we hope to support them to reach their full potential as compassionate community workplaces. In collaboration with Human Resources, we offer free training and workshops for the managers to be able to support their employees better when they're going through a grief or when they're caregiving.
Very interesting and so needed, and hopefully there's a movement there with our business community. You're listening to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Del Vecchio here, talking about compassionate communities with Cynthia Lapointe from the Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence. Now, Cynthia, you also have accompaniment, and tell us a little bit about NavCare.
Yes, NavCare is a great program. Started in the west of Canada, and we've implemented it since 2021. And really, the goal of NavCare is to support individuals in their home who are experiencing specific needs as a result of caregiver fatigue or isolation or declining health. Our volunteer navigators are matched with a client who's living in the community, and they create a bond with them, develop a relationship with them, and assist with tasks, help them find resources that can improve their quality of life, and really act as a sounding board and an emotional support for them, and help them to re-engage in the community. And it's incredible how much that impacts somebody who needs that support.
Such an amazing program, the NavCare. I know you also have an intergenerational project as well, and I want to talk about the impact. Let's really talk about the stories and the impact about compassionate community programs. So can you give an example or a few examples of the impact?
Well, I can tell you that for those in need, these programs are incredible. They improve everyday life for those people who are living with isolation or chronic illness. NavCare has had a huge effect on many of the participants, creating a sense of security and reducing their stress and giving them a feeling of security. The benefits, of course, to the healthcare system is huge. By creating these support networks for persons with health issues and working together with other local support service, we all play a part in providing care within each of our expert areas. And we're also supporting our local CLSCs, our nurses, our hospitals, and home care workers. They have a place to refer their patients in need who are living at home, and some of their concerns about their patient can be alleviated through this collaboration. So it's really a win-win situation.
Such a good point. We really are helping the healthcare system. The healthcare system is benefiting from those services. All right, Cynthia, before we wrap it up, what can we do today, right now, to support or get involved in the community initiative?
Well, anybody can support this initiative at any age. You can start right now simply by looking around you, looking on your street, in your own neighborhood, and making an effort to notice a vulnerable person, making an effort to reach out to that person. Pick up someone's mail, offer to do their walkway if they have mobility issues. Check in on them on your way back from work or school, or pick up some groceries when you're going shopping. You can get involved in your kids' school volunteer opportunities or sign up for a walkathon. Talk to friends and colleagues and pass the compassionate community's word. There are so many things you can do.
Really some excellent examples, because it doesn't have to be formalized and structured. Just think what you just said. You give 7 or 8 great examples, helping out wherever you can. This is the concept behind compassionate communities, and it's a wonderful movement. We need more of it. And Cynthia, I really want to thank you. There was so much we have to cover, but if our listeners want to find out a little bit more, I know you want to mention volunteers as well. Where can we find out a little bit more about Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence?
Well, you can certainly go to our website at Résidence, soins palliatifs.ca, residencesoinspalliative.ca, or you can give us a call at 514-693-1718.
And if volunteers, you're looking not for many hours, right?
If you have 1 to 2 hours a week to give, you can change a life. That effect of that for them and for you can be truly amazing.
All right, Cynthia. Well, thank you so much for spreading the good word about compassionate communities.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, that's Cynthia Lapointe, Community Development Project Manager at the Teresa Dellar Palliative Care Residence. Coming up next, it was International Women's Day this past Friday. What better way to celebrate the life of engineering pioneer and philanthropist Gina Cody. That's right. You may know her from the Gina Cody School of Engineering and Computer Science, and she has paved the way for women across the country. Can't wait to have Gina on the show. That's coming up after a CTV News update.